right, folks, today we're going to be tying extended bodies for PMDs specifically. I use this method to tie PMDs, bluing, olive, um, to green drakes, whatever I need at the time. And this method seems to work really well. And though it's primarily just thread and dubbing, it does hold up really well. So today, what I'm going to be using thread-wise, UTC 70. I'm using the Mayfly 5ettes and dark dun for the tail. You're going to need just a little pinch of EP fiber, trigger point, whatever it may be, some dubbing wax, and then whatever dubbing you're going to be using. Today I'm using Nature Spirit Fine PMD dubbing. And then you'll need a needle, which I'll talk about here in just a second. And without further ado, all right. So in my vise, I have a push pin. You can use a sewing needle. I'm doing these bodies for 16 mayflies. So I do want a pretty small diameter needle or push pin so I don't build up the body. The size of this is really going to depend on what your finished outcome size is. First thing I do, because we're going to be putting super glue on to kind of hold everything together, I'm going to wax my needle so that the super glue does not stick to the needle itself. And you can put a fair amount on there and it doesn't affect the glue on the thread really at all from what I found. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Next thing you're going to want to do all right, so the next thing you're going to want to do, you want to come to just behind the point. You don't want to go too close, but it is good to keep it on this, closer to this side for your tie-in, and kind of in the middle for your whip finish, just to keep everything nice. So first thing I'm going to do, I have some trigger point fibers here, and really these trigger point fibers are going to help the thread and the glue to hold everything together. So it can be pretty messy. You don't want to pinch down too hard on your wraps. The tension is really not that important for these because you also want it to be able to slide off. So you're going to go ahead and tie that back to about the length that you want your body to be. Always, if you're not sure on the size, always tie bigger, because with these you can cut them down to length when you have it. So now I'm going to take these trigger point fibers and I want to tie almost to the point. Don't get all the way, don't go, go where you're comfortable. It's not a huge difference, just the diameter doesn't change that much. So as you're tying these, you just got to remember not to do, tons of buildup in any specific area. You are going to shape it to an extent using the thread. So next up, like I said, I'm doing these as PMDs. So I'm going to take 3 of the 5ettes in dark dun. I like these in this dark dun. They stand out in the water. They make the fish, you clearly see it. I don't know what, how important that, I've used Coke de Leon in the same version, and it all works really well. It's really just kind of personal preference. So just getting my tips lined up how I want them. Don't worry about separating your tail. So when I do my PM details, I like them to be about 1.5 of the extended body part. Because I know with the body itself, it's going to come to about right there once it's fully tied in. So I use that kind of as my reference point. Pinch. I do counter spin my thread to get a little flatter. Like I said, don't worry necessarily about getting them spread out right now because you can do that when the super glue is on, and it's just easier. It tends to hold in place well. You don't have to worry about it. So when I have those tied in, make sure my thread is flat, and I hold these tails and I fully wrap these almost to the very end of where I'm going to tie in. It helps to hold everything together with the super glue. So as you can see, I mean, my body is very thin. That's good because the dubbing is going to build it up a little. So I'm just going to kind of match this point up here. And then I'm going to take my whip, bring it just a little bit. And just whip finish real quick. And this thing's covered in super glue when you're done. So you're good if it's not a too solid of whip. So I like to use this Gorilla super glue. I just like it for these. It's not as runny, and so it helps me kind of build the body how I want it. And it hardens really, really well, but gives me time to work my dubbing in. So I just want to evenly coat that. Get enough so it's fully covered. Your body is fully covered. Then you're just going to take you really don't need a lot of dubbing. So I'm going to take a small amount of dubbing and I'm just going to press it up against there loosely. You really don't even have to touch it, and just very loosely hold it against and start spinning your vise. This method is, it's very hard to do without a rotary vise. You can, it's just the dubbing. You can wrap your dubbing around your string and dub like you dub a fly. I just like this better because it makes a smooth body. And honestly, the color in it with this Nature Spirit, it has some variation, so it gives a good body look. Then you're just going to take your dubbing and just, wrap it where you need it. So as it starts getting there, you can start pulling tighter down and give it more tension. When you have it about the thickness you want, it's going to look pretty messy. That one actually came out pretty clean for that step. But all you're going to do is pinch very lightly, just put a little bit of pressure on it and start spinning your vise. You're going to really, in the same direction that it was just spinning. So you're not undoing it. And you're just going to gradually press just a little bit harder. And what that's going to do is really get those fibers worked into that super glue and get it stuck in there. If you start getting a bunch of fibers from that dubbing onto your tail material, very easy to fix. All you do is kind of stroke slowly back on that, and all those will fold back over, and you'll be able to get them all wrapped down. Remember, this end doesn't necessarily matter how clean it is because that's going to be the end that we tie down on. All right, so next, when I'm about done, I pinch real hard and twist just so I know it's free. And then just slide it right off, and that wax really helps to slide it. So see, at that point, you can take your tails. I take it off just because it's easier for me to see exactly which tails go in what direction. You take them off. That super glue is in there, so it gives them something to push back against on. But I just bend them back and somewhat grease them, and just slowly work with them to how you like them. See, just like that. And there you have it. One Mayfly body. and very easy to tie on because you have all this. And like I said, I mean, the super glue starts right where that dubbing gets thick. If you're making them long, because you don't exactly know how far or how big you're going to want them, which I do sometimes when I'm tying a bunch of different sizes, that's fine. Just tie it long because you can always clip it. And then when I actually put it down onto the hook, say that's the shank of the hook, I'll put some thread down, put some super glue right there, and then tie that in directly onto the super glue. And then since that super glue is hardened, you can take it and then really manipulate it to get that curved shape however you want. And of course, when I did that, I just messed all my tails up again. But what I do once I have the tails where I want them, I put just a little dab of super glue to keep them there. I don't know that it's that important because these 5/8 tend to stay, you know, especially when they're in the water. I mean, they tend to splay out anyway. But just always check and make sure your tails are there. And I like them like that. So there's a PMD extended body ready to go on a hook. And the next video I'll do will be on putting them onto the hook and tying a mayfly. Thank you all very much. I will keep putting some more on. We're moving into summer, so we're going to start going through different hoppers and for estuarial just to go ahead and tie and get ready for the end of summer on the river. Thanks so much, guys.